It's on the regular.
At this time, I'll call the meeting of the Marshall City Council to order with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening. We do have an agenda before us. Are there any changes to that agenda? If not, we'll operate under that agenda. The first item would be to consider the approval of the minutes from the regular meeting and the work session that was held on November 28th, as well as the Truth and Taxation public meeting that was held on December 5th. So the council does have the minutes of all of those meetings. Are there any corrections?
I move approval.
I would second that.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Steve, to approve as the minutes have been presented. We'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. John, did you vote?
I was not taking it.
His foots fell asleep.
We'll record John's vote as affirmative, so it passed unanimously. We'll move then to the consent agenda. We'll bring the items up on the screen on the consent agenda, quite a number of items on the consent this evening. And they include consider the approval of the Red Baron Arena and Expo and Bremer sponsorship agreement, consider the approval of renewal of the on-sale liquor license for the gym and a 3.2% off-sale license for Quick Trip, consider approval of tobacco license for Quick Trip, consider the approval of the taxi cab license renewal, consider the resolution for signage for ADA parking at the post office, ADA parking at Holy Redeemer, and no parking on Saratoga Street near South 6th Street. Consider the approval of the 2024 wage schedule for temporary and seasonal employees. Consider the approval of the amendment for employee recognition policy and service award schedule. Consider the approval of the amendment for the holiday policy. Consider the approval of the resolution for the official intent regarding the reimbursement of expenditures with proceeds of tax-exempt bonds and other obligations for the Aquatic Center. Consider the lease agreement between Vishay Hi-Rel Systems LLC and the City of Marshall. Consider the resolution authorizing transfer of funds from 609 to funds 101 and 481. Consider the resolution approving the charges for 2024 fee schedule. Consider the agreement for the contract with the hearing officers for the administrative citation process, the acceptance of donations made to Adult Community Center for fiscal year 2023, similar acceptance for donations made to Marshall Fire Department for 2023. Consider the acceptance of donations made to Administration Department for 2023. Consider the approval of the retirement resolutions. And finally, consider the approval of the bills and the project payments. Is there any item on the consent agenda any member of the council wants to remove for purpose of separate discussion?
Move to approve is written.
Second.
Motion by Steve, seconded by Craig to approve the items on the consent agenda as they have been presented. Discussion on that motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. So that brings us then to agenda item number 20, the Jump In, Make a Splash Committee. And I'm going to call on first Sharon Hansen, City Administrator, to introduce the co-chairs of this group.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As most of the council is aware, we had really good active resident participation in supporting the Aquatic Center when we were going through the referendum education process. And we had interest since then, since the successful referendum passage, of continuing to support the Aquatic Center project. And I know that these committee members have personally been approached by members of the community about donations and opportunities to sponsor specific elements of the Aquatic Center. And so Mark Claith and Amanda Schwartz has agreed to co-chair this committee to to help seek out donations and sponsorships as well as kind of respond to that interest. They also have some other citizens that are a part of this committee, and I'll let Mark Clath kind of give some background on that as well, and Amanda can chime in, of course. So
Mark and Amanda, first off, thank you for being here, and thank you for your community involvement, not only in this, but a lot of other things too. So thank you. I'll let you take it away.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. We're excited. The vote went through, and we're going to have a new aquatic center in the future. Knowing that, we know that the funds are there to build that aquatic center, but after the vote came through, there was a group that we sat down, and there's some amenities that we'd like to add to that aquatic center to make it really a destination. Knowing that, we decided that we're going to send out a fundraising letter and see what our response is. Now, we've had people in the community come forward to us already asking to get involved in the partnership of this facility. So we're excited. The letter is actually going to be going out in the next week. We will keep you updated. We saw the press release. I want to quote, and I'm going to let Amanda say what she said in the letter, because I think that's the important part of this. So I even highlighted it for you.
Oh, thank you. We know this project will have long-term positive impacts for the community.
So in saying that, this is not about Marshall. This is a regional facility and a destination for southwestern Minnesota. And I think that's the important thing to say. We know that the voters wanted this because we saw that when the referendum came through. So I think we're building a future for our community. And we know that people need amenities. We know that we have the younger generation coming back to this area. They want to live here. I've been fortunate to raise my family here, and I've got sons that are even one that's talking about coming back to Marshall. So I think we need to have this. And it's going to be a long time before we replace this pool, so it's important that we do it right. So that's what this committee's going to do. We're going to see how much money we can raise, and I think we're going to have a positive impact on getting those amenities. And I want to mention Kelly Brunsvold and Sherry Mathewitz are on the committee along with Preston. We wouldn't let Preston not be on the committee because we need Preston. So again, if there's anybody that's interested in getting on the committee, get a hold of one of us and we'll talk to them. Again, if there's people that want to have a conversation about what's going on and what they could become a part of, have them get a hold of us. There is an email in the letter that's going out. And again, we're excited. I want to thank the community again for passing this extension of the sales tax.
Thank you, Mark. Thank you, Amanda. Now, maybe just a little more word on, this is a tax-deductible donation, and the donations will go through the Marshall Community Foundation?
It will. In saying that, the Community Foundation has awarded $75,000 towards this project already, so they have set the ground for this to start running, and we hope that the rest of the community steps forward. We are proud to partnership with the Community Foundation. They will actually be the fiscal agent for it.
Very good. Questions or comments or input?
Thank you.
Very exciting. Yes.
Yep.
We'll keep you updated.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
Sharon, anything more?
No, just really appreciate all the work that the committee did during the referendum education process. And then this will be a big undertaking for them too. It's going to be a lot of communication and sharing of information in terms of different sponsorship levels, which I think we handed that out to you as well. They were really, in our initial discussion, and Mark and Amanda can talk about this as well, they wanted to make sure that every family had an opportunity to contribute as well, that we didn't put the sponsorship levels at a point or at a high point where it wasn't attainable for them. So really, almost every family can help make this a reality. We'll provide recognition opportunities too, even at that lower amount. So I think that furthers the really goodwill and good feeling about this project.
Thank you. And thanks once again. We'll move then to agenda item number 21, the annual Convention and Visitors Bureau update and the contract renewal. With us tonight is Cassie Weiss, our CBB Director. Welcome, Cassie. And Preston.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Before I turn it over to Cassie, I just wanted to acknowledge the partnership between the city and CVB for helping out at the arena and also just in other community projects when we're having, tournaments maybe not out there or like stuff like Prairie Jam, Sounds of Summer, any other community stuff. I think the partnership has definitely strengthened, and it takes that partnership and collaboration to make our community better. So. Thank you.
Thank you, Preston.
Thanks, Preston. Thanks, Mayor. Thanks, Council. I'd just echo what Preston said, and I know Mark said he needs Preston, but I also need Preston. So I think we'd all be a little lost without him. But so to start, I'll just give an update on Visit Marshall, and then before I move forward, I'll see if anyone has questions, and then I'll move into Red Baron. So with that, okay, I gotta figure out the clicker. Oh, jeez. Now I gotta figure out okay, sorry. Okay, so just a little overview of what I'll talk about today. I'll recap 2023 marketing events, donations, our industry and kind of what we've done for them, our financials, and then recap our goals. And then into 2024, look at what our 1-year goals will be for next year, and then look at our 5-year goals that we set last year. And then move into the Red Baron like I talked about, talk about the event recaps, the marketing recap, our 2023 goal recap, and then our 1-year goals and our 5-year goals for the Red Baron. Okay, so marketing for Visit Marshall, we kind of do 3 different kind of phases of marketing or different aspects of marketing. Our generic Visit Marshall marketing, which I'll just note a few of the things on this list. Our big thing, we did a video project with Creston Dale to have more video content for social media. And then he also created a commercial for us, which I'll show you here next. We also worked with some travel bloggers, and then, kind of our more local marketing in the community guide, Marshall Radio Sports, digital billboard, Pride and the Tiger billboard, which is in the high school, and then the Marshall Golf Club. We did a cart sponsorship. And then we did some hunting marketing as well, so focused on Wisconsin Outdoors and outdoor news. And On Wisconsin Outdoors actually came last September and did a whole weekend hunting here and then wrote an entire article about it. So that was really cool. And then event marketing, which is kind of part of our grant programs. We have events apply for our grant, and then we'll do in-kind marketing for them. We do a lot of focus out of the Brookings, Sioux Falls, Pipestone area, and then a lot on social media as well.
Visit Marshall, Minnesota!
This
To
is our
cultivate
commercial.
the best experiences.
You might recognize someone on there. So we had that on both Kelloland, and we did a social media campaign that went kind of in different areas of the Midwest to just kind of get people to come and visit us in the fall. So that was a fun project to work on. Next is our events. So the first event that we hosted this year was the Made in Minnesota Craft Beer and Wine Festival. We sold 375 tickets to that and had over 25 breweries and wineries. We were really happy with that. The Red Baron was full for it as well. And then we did the second year of Prairie Jam, which happened in September. Had about 2,500 people in attendance there. And then we partnered with the Lyon County Museum for the next 2. So we did the Arts and Living History Festival, which was an event that happened during the 150th last year. But we wanted to do it again this year. We did move it to September, had about 200 people come out, had live music, food trucks, a cricket reenactor or cricket player. So that was really fun. And then some different art activities as well. And then we did Dinner with the Dolls. So this was a creepy doll dinner in in the basement of the museum on Friday, the 13th. So we were capped at 50 people to fit down in the basement, and we sold 45 tickets. So we were really happy with that. And that's actually Sharon's doll in the picture. I made sure to include that photo. This was Sharon's idea. I would like to also maybe note that.
Creepy.
Yes, very good. Yeah, I'm not a Halloween person, so. And then Sounds of Summer is an event that we help with and sit on the committee with, and this group and committee put a lot of work into this year. They did a kind of a kids' night on Friday, and then Saturday they expected guessed about 2,500 people were in attendance. So that was another great event. A lot of great feedback on that one, and a lot of people from out of town coming in. Tunes on the Terrace was something we started to kind of celebrate Terrace 1872 being complete. We did 4 different nights, had 2 local acts, 2 acts from out of town, had about 100 people each night, and it was a great event just to get people downtown. And then just a few weeks ago, we hosted the Fairbanks Ice Dogs, December 1st and 2nd, and had about 1,000 people each night at those games as well. Sorry, I went too far. All right, donations. So we started a tourism grant about 2 years ago coming out of COVID just to help our local sports organizations, events, and activities kind of get back going and bringing people to town. This year we donated $25,000 in cash and then $14,000 in that in-kind marketing that I talked about earlier. And then at the end of last year, we looked and we really wanted to donate some investments back into our community. So we did $15,000 to the Marshall Public Schools towards art or sports or activity facilities. We donated $40,000 to the Legion Field updates, and then we did an in-kind marketing project with the EDA. So that totaled over $99,000. The industry, so we've kind of been working with our stakeholders on some different things for them. One thing is we developed an industry website, which is pictured on the right side there. So it just kind of lists all the different events that are going on, different sponsorship opportunities. They can contact us, and then down at the bottom, what you can't see is the different marketing that we've done throughout the year. We developed a Facebook group for all the hospitality partners, so when we get word of when a tournament is, we're posting it in there as well. And then we developed a staff training video that they can give to their employees to kind of learn more about Marshall. So when someone comes in and wants to know where to go shopping, we can give them our local boutiques. And then the brochure racks I'll talk about in a little bit. Our financials, just kind of a breakdown. I did include our financials through November as well for you guys, and I'm happy to answer any questions on that. But our direct spending is about 70% marketing, events, community support, and investment, and then indirect is about 30% in staffing and local community marketing and print materials. So just recapping our goals. So our first goal was to book more business meetings, expos, or trainings to draw business travelers for at least one night hotel stays. We did help Everspring book 2 different conferences that are coming to town. We filled out an RFP for one of them for Everspring, and then we're partnering with a motorcycle group, and they already have it set up at Everspring, and then we're just helping with some of the different tourism things while they're here. Next goal was to work with the local community to get Visit Marshall brand around town, such as the hotels, restaurants, boutiques, and tourist attractions. So on the right-hand side there, you can see our brochure racks that we created in partnership with Action Manufacturing. We have 15 of those. Well, actually, there's more than 15, but 15 locations around town that we put those. And then we also made just small QR code stickers for some of the boutiques or areas that maybe don't have room for a big brochure rack like that. And then increase our fall advertising for outdoor travel weekends. And this year, we just really focused a heavy amount of our marketing on fall travel and coming, seeing the fall leaves, going to Camden State Park, going to the outdoor area at SMSU, and just did a lot of push on that. Oh, I went too far again. Nope, I didn't. All right, so our one-year goals for 2024, we'd like to host or book 3 additional business meetings and conferences in town that ideally bring hotel rooms during that midweek time. Promote Marshall to sports groups that would host local, regional, state, or new tournaments in town. Continue to look at our financials and the ability to make donations to our local groups, outside groups, community projects, as well as major events to help build the tourist experience in Marshall. Grow the hunting market by working with local hunters and influencers to promote Marshall as a hunting location. Bring in 1 theater production to town, examples being dinner theater, comedian, or a performance. And then highlight and feature our board members on social media and website to broaden our reach within the community. All right, and our 5-year goals that we had set was increase business travel for expos, events, and business meetings in towns. Like I said, we have the 2 booked, both in 2024. Increase tournament and events for niche sports. And in 2023, we were able to help SMSU Wrestling host a tournament, and then SMSU Softball also did a high school tournament, as well as an adult open hockey tournament was brought back. Increase the number of state tournaments or events. In 2023, we were awarded the 12UA State Hockey Tournament that will take place at the Red Baron. And then build new partnerships with our local outdoor associations. And in 2023, we did start a hunting roundtable with different hunting enthusiasts. And we meet twice a year, and our goal is to create some sort of public bird cleaning station where visitors could go and clean their birds so they don't have to do it on the back of their tailgate. Any questions before I move on?
Questions for Cassie or comments from the CBB board?
No, I just want to say, I am really impressed with Adri and Cassie. They're just a full team of 2 full-time, and just the things that they get done there. I'm just so amazed, so thank you.
Thank you.
Very good.
All right, I'll move on to Red Baron Annual Report. So first is an event recap. So I just starred the things that were new. The adult hockey tournament, SMSU youth wrestling tournament, SMSU hosted a high school wrestling camp. The Minnesota Wild did a summer road trip, the dementia area awareness walk, and then the Max Fleet Illusionist Show, who actually just emailed us yesterday and wants to come back in 2024 as well, so that's exciting. But just to kind of put that in numbers, the lower conference room, we had 36 paid rentals, which is a 71% increase over last year. The expo floor was rented out 52 of 234 available days. That's 13 out of 28 weekends, so there's a huge opportunity there to get more on that expo floor. And then the Blue Peak Club Room was rented 41 paid rentals, which is an 11% increase over last year. And those do not include any free rentals from the public school, the city, or Visit Marshall. And our marketing recap. So we did Marshall Radio, the Marshall Community Guide, Connect Business Magazine, menu boards at the Hitching Post, Wooden Nickel and Fuzzies, and then search engine optimization on our website. So the search engine optimization just kind of looks at like where your website ranks. And as a hockey rink, our website was ranking really high, but as an expo event center, it was ranking really low. So we really just focused on the event and the meeting side of things to really boost up that. So you can see here when we see the spike in our website views is during hockey season. So we really would like to get that number up, year round so that people are looking at us for an event venue as well. So these are kind of the different meeting room rental, the different verbiage that people are using to Google that we really wanted to rank number 1 on. And as you can see, we do now. This is just sessions on our website over the last year. Sessions are up 76%. New sessions are up 0.10%. Pages, like the number of pages they're viewing, is up 3%. Engagement rate up about 7%, and the average duration up about 9%. This is just where people are searching for us. So whether it be desktop, mobile, maps, maps on a desktop or maps mobile. So kind of the reason why we really wanted to work on our website and be more present when it comes to meetings and events is because, a lot of people are heading there. So when people are Googling us, this is where they're going. They're either going to our website, they're requesting directions, or they're calling us. And you can see 4,000 people are clicking to our website. So we want to make sure the information is on there. So with that, we built new pages, convention center, corporate events, seminars, and trainings that are all listed on our website. And then we enhanced the event pages we already had. Dasher sales. So we've been doing Dasher sales for about 5 years now. Dashers are the boards that go around the hockey rink, and we sell advertisements on those. So we have 25 businesses that have Dasher packages, and that's 52 Dasher boards. The Lockwood rink is actually sold out. We don't have any more room for Dashers, and the Action has one more premium spot, which is like the best viewing spot, and revenue has continued to increase since 2019. And then sponsorships, this year we had 2 renewals that both went as planned, and we had 1 new contract that we worked up with Southwest Sanitation. So our 2023 goals, we really wanted to look at continuing to explore more ways to make the booking process easier for both the consumer and us scheduling. So we've worked with community services at looking at different platforms, but also just the main thing that we've done is created a Google Doc to really have all the information in one spot for us. We also wanted to look into options on how to utilize the expo floor for sports or activities when events aren't happening. And in 2023, we had such a wet spring that Moosa did utilize the expo floor for about 3 weeks, as well as MCS has been using it as well. We want to drive more business business travel from local businesses. So like we said, our meeting room rentals are up about 71% and 11% in the 2 rooms, most of that being local businesses. And then start a list of potential renters and send them information on hosting events. And this is something that we really need to do a better job of, and I'll talk about for our 2024 goals, but we do have a small list started. All right, so our 1-year goals, we want to rebuild and re-engage the Marshall Sports Commission. We'd like to reach out to 5 potential renters per month, and then we want to work on a 12-month business blueprint. So with everything that's been going on in Marshall, 2 new wedding venues, we've really had to pivot what we've been doing at the Red Baron. And we really want to focus more on the business travel and work a lot harder at cold calling and reaching out to people to come and host their events here. So our 5-year goals that we had set, host a large business meeting or expo on the expo floor. That has not happened yet. Host 20% more business meetings in both the Blue Peak Club Room and the conference room. So like I said before, Blue Peak Room was up 11%, conference room was up 72%. Better serve our sports that can participate on the expo floor from March to October when events aren't happening. In 2023, we were able to help the soccer community as they used it, and then host a youth state hockey tournament, which we were awarded for February of 2024. And then we'd also like to host an off-season hockey tournament, which right now our boys' high school team does. It sounds like our girls' high school team is going to do one, but I think more of like a youth tournament where multiple teams are coming in is what we're kind of more looking for. Any questions?
What level is the state hockey tournament?
12UA girls. Yep.
Great. Questions for Cassie about the Red Baron Arena?
What kind of feedback do you get from the groups about rebirth or re-engaging the Southwest Amateur Sports Commission?
I think it's a little,
Tentative?
yeah, it depends kind of who you ask.
Sure.
The last time that Sharon and I talked, we just feel like there's a huge opportunity for sports in Marshall, and it's just finding the people who want to help us.
Sure.
And if there is a connection with associations where we're not taking away from their tournaments, but they could maybe somehow be rewarded. Or if there's grants that we could get from the state, we maybe want to look at
Good.
that. So, yeah,
Support that.
thanks.
And then the contract renewal, are you handling that? Or-
We can handle it together. I
Yeah.
know we had Preston and Cassie, and actually included Amy on this too, as kind of a transition. There weren't a lot of changes to my knowledge, and actually the rate is the same, and it's been that same monthly rate for quite some time. We did have Kennedy and Graven review the contract as well. It still remains a one-year contract, kind of tied in with the requirement for CVB to provide an annual update. And I know that that's something we'd like to see, of course, continued part of the Red Baron contract. So I like the fact that Cassie and Preston, and I know we've obviously talked about this, the strengthening of our relationship and the collaboration. And I really feel that that'll continue to improve. Community Services just recently looked at some software that hopefully enhances not only the end user, for example, our recreation participants and our community ed registrants, but also the relationship we have with scheduling and Red Baron. So our staff is fully in support of this contract, and I agree with Councilmember Mulesky. Lots of tremendous work done by Adri and Cassie at CVB. So appreciate the contract and the work that they've done.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon. Any questions for either Sharon or Cassie?
The only thing I'll add, I believe our rental contract is in there too at the end. And that's just for us to rent part of that office space in the front office with Cody.
Is there any question about the contract that's up for renewal? If not, is there a motion to approve?
Motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by C, seconded by Craig. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to agenda item number 22. This is the 2025 MnDOT College Drive Improvement Project. We have a update as well as a resolution for the municipal consent and layout approval. So with us tonight is Jesse Valamick, who's the project manager on this project with Minnesota Department of Transportation. Jesse, as you're coming up, Jason, do you have anything you want to do as an introduction for this agenda item?
Thank you, Mayor. I'll be really brief. As you mentioned, Jesse's here to give the presentation. He's been here a couple times before, but as the city has requested some adjustments to the project limits, we have to go through this process of doing the municipal consent review again. So I'll turn it over to Jesse.
Okay, welcome, Jesse.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. Jesse Valamick, MnDOT Project Manager for the State Project 420440, reconstruction of Highway 19 College Drive from now 700 feet west of Marlene Street through Bruce Street. So I'm here today just to request city approval, municipal consent, as the mayor pointed out, that is in the, in the packet, of the final layout flap for SP 420440, identified as flap number 2A SP 420440. And I handed Jason the paper layout, and him and his staff have also been reviewing the 60% plan that we're currently at. So the layout for SP 420440, reconstruction of Highway 19 College Drive from 4th Street to Bruce Street, which we started at, still remains the same as approved by the City Council August 24th of 2021, as does the final layout flap for 1A Bruce Street intersection, approved by the city on October 25th, 2022. And now, today, we're looking at flap 2A to extend the reconstruction to 700 feet west of Marlene Street to 4th Street. So this accommodates the request from the city to reconstruct that portion to be able to do additional city utility repairs in that area. With that, we're at, like I said earlier, we're at 60% design. The current construction cost for this total project is $27 million, which $6.7 million will be the city's of Marshall's cost for the project. I know it's kind of a high-level overview of the project, but I think the city council and the mayor, you all have a very good understanding of where we're at with the project and what's happening on it. But is there any questions that Jason and/or I can answer?
For the public, and you touched on this, but just to reemphasize there's really two drivers behind the extension of this project beyond 4th Street. One is that the utilities underneath need to be replaced, and it
Yes.
would make the most sense to do that at the same time that all of the other utilities are being done. And then the second factor would be the RAISE grant, the federal dollar, the $15.4 million that was received, which makes it more feasible for both the city and MnDOT to expand this project to really do it as it should be done. Jason, anything else?
No, I think you hit it on the head there. You know, we were working with the MnDOT team, Jesse and the rest of the team, and discussing our future plans and looking at a 10-year window and saying we're probably going to be here in 10 years. And after having those conversations, and like you said, the RAISE grant certainly helps both entities, it was discussed that we should really be looking at this comprehensively right now. So that's where we ended up. And you're right, the MnDOT's graciously included the city of Marshall in that RAISE grant. I don't know, I think we're roughly around $3 million of
Correct.
contribution from RAISE grant, which is great. We've also got a local road and bridge program grant that we received through the ATP, District 8 ATP, 1.1 million. So we do have a lot of grant support to go along with it. And then obviously our water and wastewater and surface water utilities will bear some burden here as we make improvements.
Greg?
So 700 feet west of Marlene, that takes us, what, just about almost to the railroad crossing, right?
No. So if you look on the map there, right about where Buffalo Ridge Road.
Ready
gets
mix?
Back to the concrete, it's where the existing the existing curb and gutter begins.
Oh, okay. Okay, so about halfway to Fairgrounds Road.
With the city's request to go to a sanitary structure, which is about 300 or 400 feet east of there, it was like, we need to go with that extra 300 feet and take care of the rest of that curb and gutter.
Got it.
So that's why that location was picked.
That makes sense.
And then as far as a bike path, that will be on the surface bike path to connect it to the existing bike path west.
I'll turn that over to you, Jesse. I don't know, is that still a part of the plan? I know
So-
it was in the application at one
Yes,
point.
so from Marlene Street all the way out to the bike path crossing, we will put pavement markings that'll be bike,
Share the lane.
yeah, on the shoulder.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, good, thank you. Any other questions for Jesse? You know, when we mentioned that RAISE grant, we also need to acknowledge that that's a federal dollars, and with that also comes a lot of extra reporting, a lot of extra documentation that the MnDOT and specifically you, Jesse, have had to do. So thank you for your work on that.
You're welcome.
So with that, you have the action before you to approve the resolution for the municipal consent and the layout approval, again, for this specific extension of the 2025 project.
I move the resolution.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Jim. Discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We'll move then to agenda item number 23, consider the approval of the amendments to the personnel policy manual relating to sick leave policies. With us is Sheila Dubbs, Human Resource Director for the city.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have two policies for your consideration this evening.
One is an amendment to our existing sick leave policy, and the second one is a new policy for our part-time, seasonal, temporary, and paid-on-call employees. Both of these policies will comply with the new earned sick and safe time leave law. This is a new law that was signed by the governor on May 24th of this year and will go into effect on January 1st. I'll start by saying that the Personnel Committee did review these policies in detail and recommended approval, so I'll do kind of a higher level overview tonight, but answer any questions that you might have when I'm finished. The purpose of this law is to provide paid sick and safe time leave to employees to care for themselves, a sick family member, or to seek assistance if the employee or a family member has experienced domestic abuse. The new law does apply to almost all Minnesota employees and businesses. There are a few carve-outs, but for our purposes here, this law does apply to all of our employees. The Department of Labor did create a really nice summary page that explains the new law, and that's on the screen for you. The law does prescribe when an employee is eligible to receive paid sick and safe leave time. It provides a list of the eligible reasons for use, and it provides a list of the family members and other individuals that an employee can use the leave for. Every employee is eligible to earn up to 48 hours of sick and sick leave time per year under this new law and to carry over a maximum of 80 hours each calendar year. How many hours of safe and sick leave time is earned is based on how many hours an employee works. I'll start with our current policy for full-time and three-quarter-time employees. Our goal with the revisions there were to maintain as much of the existing language as possible and only make changes where needed to comply with the law. So we are not proposing any additional leave accrual benefits for full-time employees. The accrual schedule will remain the same as it has always been. Under the law, the city is required to provide a minimum of 48 hours of sick and safe time per year to full-time employees, and our current accrual schedule meets and exceeds that standard. So based on the advice of our labor attorney, Susan Hansen, our policy language proposes to cross-designate the first 48 hours of paid sick leave used by an employee each year as earned safe and sick time leave. For these first 48 hours only, the employee will be able to use the hours under the conditions of the new law. After those 48 hours have been used, the employer will be required to follow our existing policies and procedures. The draft policy that you have before you also includes language about the advance notice requirements, return to work protections, and prohibitions on retaliation, all of which are prescribed by the new law. The second policy for your consideration is a new policy, and that is for our part-time, paid-on-call, temporary, and seasonal employees. This will be a new benefit for employees of this classification. To be eligible to earn safe and sick leave time, all part-time employees in those classifications will first need to work 80 hours in a calendar year. Once they meet that threshold, they'll be eligible to earn 1 hour of safe and sick time leave for every 30 hours worked, up to a maximum of 48 hours per year. If an employee doesn't use their paid sick and safe leave time, they'll be able to carry that bank of hours over into the next calendar year, but the maximum amount that they can accrue and/or carry is 80 hours. The law does not require the city to pay out those hours when an employee leaves employment. So if they resign, they don't take those hours with them, but if they're rehired within 6 months or 180 days, the city is required to reinstate those hours into their bank. We anticipate that this law will be challenging for us to implement, especially for our part-time, paid-on-call, and temporary staff, both in terms of payroll administration and scheduling. So we'll be monitoring this carefully throughout the year to see what the impacts are and to potentially make any necessary adjustments. So there may be future policy amendments or staffing adjustments that need to be made. As I mentioned, our labor attorney has reviewed both of these policies and has recommended a few amendments in those, which have been incorporated into your drafts. There's one additional policy amendment being proposed this evening to the full-time policy that is unrelated to the new earned, safe, and sick leave law. Stephen, if you'll go to 139 of the packet. So there's a one paragraph sentence in there. We are proposing that an employee be permitted to utilize sick leave following the death of an employee's spouse or child. Our current funeral leave policy allows 3 days of paid leave for a death. If you approve this proposed amendment, once those 3 days of funeral leave have been taken, an employee would then be eligible to take an additional 40 hours of sick leave with supervisory approval. Based on personal experience this year, I can tell you that the 3 days of funeral leave are not enough for an employee experiencing this to return to work in a productive fashion. So that additional 40 hours will be really helpful so that you get an employee back that is productive and focused. Other revisions to the policies are more technical in nature, such as deleting the statute references that were repealed by the new earned and safe time leave law. So I'll pause there and answer maybe any questions that you might have.
Okay, thank you, Sheila. And first off, I appreciate the thoroughness and the level of knowledge that you have gained and also utilized and shared with us about this very complex issue and new law. So there hasn't been a lot of time to really develop this level of understanding. And so I thank you for your work on this and bringing this recommendation forward. I believe this was also discussed at the Personnel Committee.
was.
Any input from the Personnel Committee?
No, Sheila had done such a good job that it was pretty cut and dry, and
I agree.
Sharon, any comments you have?
I think Sheila covered it well. I do think the part-time paid on-call provisions are required by state legislation. I think it will be challenging. And as Sheila alluded, it may need further amendments, including looking at staffing levels. I know for our seasonal employees, we have a lot of them in Parks and Recreation. And then, of course, our liquor store, we're concerned. And then our fire department, where attendance on a normal week to week is critical for training and their operations. And then, of course, on incidents. So we'll have to kind of see how this goes. I feel that part of it is going to be challenging. And I also appreciate the fact that Sheila took consideration to our existing policy and kind of put brackets around when that first 48 hours will occur and how they'll be noted. So those are just my comments on the legislation.
Any other input or questions?
The only input I would put in is this is something private businesses, I as an employer, it is a struggle because we're trying to figure out with my employees how to figure this out. So this isn't just a public thing. This is public, private,
Right.
statewide. So it's, you helped me learn stuff today. Thank you. Which I can use and implement with my payroll and my, I have employees too. It's a nightmare.
Well, and I think, and Sharon, you touched on this, there's two overriding factors here. One is our existing personnel policy and then compliance with the legislation. And I think you've done a nice job of serving both of those drivers.
Thank you.
So what are the wishes of the council?
Make a motion to approve the amended personnel policies.
I'll second that.
By Amanda, seconded by Jim. Discussion? If there's no discussion, we'll move to a vote.
That was for MnDOT. No?
What's that?
Okay,
that's
there's
what
a
mine did earlier.
weird. Okay,
Oh, it got small.
Is he in there?
try it. Let's see. I say yay.
Voting?
Since you made the amendment.
And the motion passes. We'll move then to the agenda item number 24, the public use of cannabinoid products and the prohibition on smoking of cannabinoid and tobacco products in city parks and city recreational facilities. The action item is the introduction of this ordinance. I'll turn this over and introduce Pam Whitmore City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. I figured I'd stand since there's actually 3 different ordinances being introduced, and I just, in case you have any questions about any of them. So as council well knows, the HR 100 was passed by the legislature, and as of August 1st, the use of cannabis and cannabinoid products is legal and so many cities are regulating the public use of that. Lyon County, actually, as a municipality or as a county, has passed an ordinance prohibiting use in all public spaces. And so we've had this discussion to the extent that the city would benefit from any regulation on the public use. These ordinances have been through LNO, I think, a couple times, and has gotten input as well from the Community Service Advisory Board. And so what you see in front of you is the introduction of introduction of 1 new ordinance and proposed amendments to 2 existing ordinances. So Section 4629 is new, and it does prohibit tobacco and cannabinoid product smoking. So all smoking in city parks and recreational facilities. There have been definitions included as far as what a city park is and what a recreational facility is. It additionally prohibits the use of cannabinoid products with the exceptions of private events that have been licensed from the Office of Cannabis Management, in addition to private events that have gone through similar to the licensing structure for alcohol in parks, with some prohibitions on things, events that would be involving any minors. To be able to have those private events, you have to go through the permitting process and comply with all ordinances. So that is a new structure that has been set up and established by this ordinance. So I wanted to call that out for your review. In addition to that, there is Section 42-112, which is an amendment to an existing consumption of beer and liquor on streets and public property. There has been addition of use of cannabinoid products, since those are intoxicating products as well. And then a prohibition of smoking as well for cannabinoid products. So just to be clear, tobacco smoking is still being allowed on those public streets and property. There's been a definition of public property that was added to that because there wasn't a definition there previously. And then Section 20-10-22 also is an amendment to an ordinance you probably didn't even know that you had, related to public dancing places. And so that ordinance is on the books, and it just encourages those who are managers, owners of those places, to take steps to prohibit persons who are unauthorized to enter into those facilities that sell previously intoxicating liquor. So we've just added for if there's retail sale and serving of cannabinoid products at those premises, then those persons who are not authorized to enter those premises will there will be steps taken to prohibit that. So that would be your minors under the statute. So with that, it ends my comments. I'm open for questions.
Any questions related to the introduction of all 3 of these?
I have one, Mr. Mayor.
Go ahead, Steve.
If you go to the first page where it's 46.29 under A, the definition A subsection 3, for the purpose of this section, electronic delivery device means product containing or delivering nicotine, lobelia.
That is a state definition. So that comes straight from the Clean Air Act.
Who smokes lobelia? It's a flower.
We pulled that definition just because it was a state recognized
That's
definition.
the dumbest thing I've ever heard. There's lobelia. It's a beautiful.
So I recommend you
plant.
contact your state representative and senator.
Maybe I'll get rid of my cough.
Maybe. But it doesn't have anything about marijuana or THC in there, so.
So the smoking definition and the cannabinoids, so the provision below is no smoking of cannabinoid products. That electronic delivery device was added because the previous definition for tobacco didn't include that new way of smoking. So that was just incorporated in to piggyback on the definition of smoking.
Don't watch the sausage.
That's vaping?
Thank you, ma'am.
I'm not familiar enough with different ways to smoke things, but I believe that that's correct.
What was the question?
Is it vaping? Is it a way to vape?
Yeah, it'd be.
Yeah,
It's vaping. Electronic delivery is vaping.
yeah.
Any other questions for Pam? Any other comments? I fully recognize the Legislative Ordinance Committee has spent quite a bit of time on this. Any comments from the Legislative Ordinance Committee about this pending introduction?
I can comment, and the reason why we went with to ban smoking completely is to make it easier for our law enforcement, because if you're smoking, you're in violation, because then they don't have to try to figure out what the person's smoking. And I just think it's time we get cigarettes and smoke and vape out of our parks. So, and the other reason, I know the county has one, this came up, and Pam, you can correct me, we're not sure if our police force can actually enforce the county amendment. I know we had, or ordinance, we had that discussion. So this gives our police the option, we have our own ordinance. I'm correct in saying that?
So the county has an ordinance which the sheriffs and the sheriff deputies would enforce.
Correct.
But the question is then, our local police, and according to chief, they would not have that authority to enforce the county ordinance based on the conversations we had with the county. So this just supports that and gives them authority to follow through on having consistent enforcement.
Any other questions? If not, is there a motion for the introduction?
So moved.
I'll second it.
By Steve, seconded by Jim. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion passes. Agenda item number 25 is the Trunk Highway 59 detour agreement. We have a resolution authorizing the execution of the MnDOT agreement for this project. Jason Anderson, Director of Public Works, City Engineer.
Thank you, Mayor. Included in the packet is said agreement as well as a map identifying the detour route and the signage on the route. This was proposed a couple years back for a diamond grinding project that MnDOT's planning for US 59 from Highway 23 to the south to a point where the concrete ends just south of town. The detour for that work is proposed along County Road 6 and County Road, I believe it'd be 35 that turns into Saratoga Street in our city limits. So the work did not get done a couple years ago, and now MnDOT is bringing it back in a new budget year, and they want to do the work next year. So they are bringing the same detour forward that they brought last time. And so South Saratoga Street from our south city limits line up to Minnesota 23 would be used as part of the detour and would be compensated what I'll call a nominal amount for road wear and maintenance along the route, and that's outlined in the agreement. I think it's a little over $1,000. If there's any questions, I can try to address them, but MnDOT does expect the detour to last as many as 30 days, and right now they're tentatively planning for it in July through the month of July and into early August.
Okay, questions?
I do, Mr. Mayor.
Steve?
So when they detour and all the trucks go on there, and you who drive trucks can tell me, when it says the state will reimburse the city for the road life consumed, how do we set that up? How do we figure that out? Because it's a lot, but how do you establish it?
Yeah, the state DOT has specific formulas that they follow, so it's a stock template formula that they use, and they've somehow vetted, I guess I didn't get into the details, but they have a formula that they follow, and that's how they're proposing to pay it. I'll also point out that I think it's note 5 on that plan on Saratoga Street. They'll put a dynamic speed sign at our city limits. So when you're coming into town and the speed changes from 55 miles per hour to 40, you'll have a dynamic speed sign there to let you know.
Sharon?
Should have asked this prior, Jason, I'm sorry, but perhaps confusing to me. Just explain access to Walmart, Runnings, our municipal liquor store.
Yeah, that's a good question. I didn't talk with them about it this time, but my recollection from the last conversation was that work would be done under traffic in that retail corridor. It's just for the highway through traffic as it comes into town on the 2-lane portion of the highway that they need to detour it around. So it's my understanding that traffic will flow through the 4-lane section of 59 Main Street. They'll just have to work under traffic.
So the work will stop at Windstar?
No, it'll go to a point south of town where the concrete pavement changes to blacktop somewhere near RNG's shop there.
But then on our side, it'll come up to Windstar?
No, it'll go all the way up to Minnesota 23.
It will.
Yes,
It's just that when it's on the divided 4-lane, they can do one side at a time and run
Correct. They can
traffic
do lane
imposing
shifts.
on either north or southbound lane.
Okay. Any other questions? We don't really have a choice on this. MnDOT's going to do this project, so. And they're going to send the traffic on the county road and our street. So I think a motion to approve would be in order.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Motion by Jim, seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion passes. Okay, agenda item number 26 is the airport snow removal equipment building, the project update, as well as the authorization to advertise for bids. Once again, Jason.
thank you, Mayor. So since we've last received bids on this project, we've worked with TKDA, the airport, and the Airport Commission to reconfigure, rework the plans on this project, make some plan changes, and work to try to identify ways to bring the cost down. Also involved in that process, we've recently had the PIT committee meeting with the Airport Commission and taking a hard look at the plans. We believe we've got the plans in a good spot. We've made some adjustments to reduce costs. There's no in-floor heat. There's no concrete stem wall on the bottom of the building. Some of the pre-manufactured steel panels that's all been eliminated. We've taken out everything that we could see that could be considered excess, and that comes from TKDA's review as well as conversations with the contractor and the contracting community to try to identify different costs that could be removed. So we believe we're in a good spot, and we are asking the council to consider authorizing us to advertise for bids now at this point, starting on Friday. And we see the schedule in the memo as well, where we'd hopefully open bids in mid-January and look to make an award in early 2024. Turn it over to the PAT committee if they've got comments.
Okay, any comments from the Public Improvement and
The
Transportation
only thing,
Committee?
Stephen, can you pull up farther down the packet with the actual, that's the old, there's the new design. So there's the different, what they've changed the building. Thank you.
I was thinking that too.
I think it's also important too, that one of the steps that TKDA did take, they were embarrassed by the past bid process that we went through and the resulting substantially over our estimates. They actually have a firm that they've worked with that would or could have been a project bidder that is not a project bidder and will not be a project bidder, but they actually had them ghost bid this, just to kind of self-check to get a set to see if they're in the ballpark, and this looks pretty favorable. So there have been really good measures taken, a lot of work put in. I appreciate TKDA's work on this. They got our message. And they got more message last week when the PI&T actually co-met with Airport Commission to really look this over. We didn't want TKDA to have to come present twice, and we really wanted PI&T to look at this. So we feel pretty good about this and recommend that the council support this to go back out. We're really hoping that we come back in with a good bid at or under budget. So
Good.
That's our hope. That's our recommendation.
Any questions? If not, is there a motion for the authorization to advertise for bids?
I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
Motion by Jim, seconded by Craig. Discussion?
I just want to, Mr. Mayor, say that for these things, it's expensive. And even with the rebid, it's still expensive. And I look 5 years down the way, we're tight without money. You're looking at things, and this is a good thing, and you want to hope that it draws flight business in. But boy, it's expensive, so.
Can I just comment on that a
Go
little
ahead,
bit?
Sharon.
Because staff had this discussion a little bit today too with finance and maybe Jason just kind of mentioned it's not just the building, but site work and some estimates on that.
Yeah, thanks, Sharon. It is expensive, and there is a lot of site work that goes on here as well. There's an access road that has to be installed from Madrid Circle down to the taxiway of the airport. There's some utility work and drainage work that has to occur. So it's not just a building, it's also creating the grounds for the building to be there and for access to exist. I'll also point out that there's many different funding sources proposed on the project. We've got two different types of federal funds on the project, bipartisan infrastructure law funds. We've got our annual AIP entitlement funds. We've got state aeronautics that'll come in and match with grant funds. And then the city portions, actually right now, it breaks out at about 20% of that cost. So right now we're hovering around $1 million is our estimate, and we really hope that the numbers come in favorable to that estimate. So it's a lot that goes into it. And then, of course, with federal dollars come something that the mayor pointed out earlier, different federal requirements, prevailing wages, Buy America provisions, et cetera, et cetera.
Right. Thank you, Jason. Any other input or discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote on the motion. Close the voting. And the motion passes. We'll move then to agenda item number 27, the 5-year capital improvement plan. EJ, do you have this? I'll call on EJ Moberg, Director of Administrative Services.
Thank you. So these next three items are things that we're familiar with just from having gone through work session and then also talked the next two items specifically at the Truth and Taxation meeting. This first one here tonight is the capital improvement plan. Just wanted to first start out by pointing out that the second item, the first here under bonding levy impact, these are items that were planned on for bonding in 2024 that will impact levies in 2025 and beyond. So that list has been what we've been working through and with since earlier this fall. So that first section there is the 3.1 million. And then we have the next section deals with our planned special assessments on that bonding for the couple of the street projects if they move forward. It's a relatively small amount. And then that third section is the capital equipment fund levy. I did want to just point out that levy itself, when we get to the levy for this fund, is $300,000. There's $500,000 of equipment here. We did meet with the Equipment Review Committee on November 13th. And we do have their recommendation as well to the council to use some of our American Rescue Plan Act monies of $200,000 in addition to the $300,000 we're going to levy, so that these $500,000 of equipment can be purchased next year. The big item on this you'll see is this dump truck for $239,000 by itself. If you look in the future years there, you'll see scroll down just a little way, there's a motor grader on there that was all planned for 25, and what we did is we decided to move that out and budget that impact over 3 years going forward. But because of the fact we have some of these ARPA monies, which are potentially more time sensitive now with the new federal ruling that I talked about a little bit at a previous meeting, that we just thought we'd throw this in this year with the idea of using that so we can get all these items of equipment, especially the dump truck. That's for the $500,000 level. Otherwise, the capital improvement plan is there, and we've chatted about it. Are there any questions?
Any questions? I would just say on this item as well as the next two agenda items, there's been a substantial amount of review that has happened by the council as well as various committees and staff. Questions?
No question. I just have a comment. And I know we had our Truth and Taxation meeting a week ago, and the folks mentioned about our levy going up, which we'll get to shortly. But the dump truck, the road grader, that's used for snow removal. And there are choices that we as a council can make to where if we don't fund them, we don't move snow as fast. So, it's expensive to live in Minnesota with that equipment because we do have to move snow. There are cities that if you get, and I'm just using an example, there's no snow this year, which is nice, but if you don't get over 3 inches of snow, they don't move it. You go to St. Paul, and their side streets are horrible because they don't move snow. And I bet you Pam, I don't know where she lives in the cities, but I can tell you their side streets are probably not kept as clean as Marshall's. So it's a quality of life when we purchase this stuff, but it does cost a lot of money. Steve, like you said, stuff is expensive. We could have icy streets. We didn't have to salt last Saturday. We could not have that dump truck and not salt, and it would have melted away today. But a quality of life that we expect in Marshall, and it makes it a better place to live, and it costs money.
Any other input on the CIP? If not, I would entertain a motion on the approval of the 5-year capital improvement plan.
Move.
Motion by Craig, seconded by John. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. So agenda item number 28 is a resolution that would adopt the 2024 budget. Once again, E.J. Moberg, Director of Administrative Services.
Thank you. So as the mayor mentioned, this is the 2024 budget as presented. This does remain at the 9.9% levy increase from where we were from 2023. Some of our main reasons for that, as we've discussed previously, the 2023 bonding that we did impacts our levy this year by 4.1%. Our capital equipment fund last year, we used some ARPA monies, but we used them to reduce that $300,000 mark to get to 150. So just putting it back at 300 added 1.8% to our levy. And then just general payroll costs in general, for even just the general fund, we're about 4.6%. I do want to mention that a future item tonight deals with the workers' compensation. As recently as a few weeks ago, we thought we were at about $274,000 for our workers' compensation policy, which would have been a 19.1% increase. We got the actual number for that after the fact, and it's actually $313,000 plus for 1 year, so it's actually a 36.1% increase. This budget does not, we'll have to pay for that if that is approved, but this budget has not been changed to reflect the additional $29,610 that we'll have to repurpose for the workers' compensation costs for that insurance policy. Otherwise, we have spent a lot of time on the budget. I'm open for any questions or input.
Thank you, E.J., and thank you for your work as well as the rest of the staff's work on this. Questions? If not, I would entertain a motion for the resolution adopting the 2024 budget.
I move the resolution adopting the 2024 budget.
I'll second it.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Steve. Discussion?
And just for the public's knowledge, we have worked this and worked it, and costs are going up everywhere, and I don't think there's one council member up here who's happy with where we are, but we're actually holding it much further down, as EJ just said. Unanticipated costs happen, and we're already behind on it, and so that money's got to come from someplace, and it's just, we've done the best we can with what we got, and we're doing a lot better than a lot of our comparable cities. So I thank the staff for their hard work and sacrifice on this, and the council members.
Any other discussion on the motion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. And then the final act would be the resolution adopting a tax levy for 2024 that would support the budget that was just passed. Any additional comments, EJ?
Well summarized.
Wishes of the council.
I move the resolution adopting the levy for 2024.
Second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by C. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. Close the voting. And the motion passes. We'll move then to agenda item number 30, consider approval of the 2024 Workers' Compensation Insurance and Volunteer Accident Plan. EJ, you already referenced this.
EJ, is this what they talk about, is the best battle plans are great till you encounter the enemy?
Yeah, once an enemy pops up, you never know where they're going to come from, right?
Right.
But the best laid plans, it's one of those situations where when we made the switch from LMCIT to BitGo, we did have substantial savings. We're still going to be seeing significant savings by remaining with it. It's just that with the year we had The premium has gone up that much, that it's a 36.1% increase based off of the full year amount had we been with Bitco. As shown on the screen here, for this year, the Bitco we've had since March 1st through the rest of this year. We had LMCIT for the first 2 months before we made the switch, and then because of Bitco not having the full comparable, we had a separate policy from Chubb for the accident plan. So next year would just be to use Bitco and Chubb for the full year. It is, like I said, the 36.1% increase. The only cost control measures or possibilities that came forward from our insurance agent was to potentially add deductibles to the plan, which we can discuss, but at this point, we just feel to move forward as is our recommendation.
Questions for EJ?
Been happy with Bitco so far in claims and,
I'll let Sheila at least give me a nod or something for if she would,
yeah.
yes.
Laura has the majority of contact with Bitco, though we both work with the claimant examiner when we do have an employee injury. We've had no issues with processing any of the paperwork, and I've worked with the claims examiners on claims when we've needed to have treatments and returning employees to work under restrictions, that sort of thing. We've had no issues with Bitco whatsoever, so they've been a good company to work with, very responsive.
Thank you, Sheila. Any other questions? If not, you have the recommendation on the renewal for the workers' compensation. I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the renewal.
Second it.
Motion by Amanda, seconded by Jim. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. And we'll close the voting. And the motion passes. Into agenda item number 31, consider appointments to boards, commission board. So earlier this evening, the council did meet in special session, interviewed an applicant for the DEI, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Commission. Based on that, that meeting, that interview, the application, I would recommend that Sam Jens be appointed to the DEI committee to that open position, representing out of Marshall City limits residents. I'd offer that as a recommendation and entertain a motion to affirm.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by C,
Second.
seconded by John. Discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Well, excuse me. We'll move, we'll move to a vote.
Guys.
Never going old school.
Follow the rules.
And now we'll close the voting.
So happy to use your place.
And the motion does pass. My apologies. Okay, so then we'll move to commission board liaison reports. Craig?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. The items at Airport Commission and also with our PI&T, we've dealt with those tonight, and thank you for that. I have nothing else.
Steve?
I have nothing.
Amanda?
Housing Commission was rescheduled for later this week, so I have nothing.
Snowstorm?
The Southwest Regional Development Commission board will meet this Thursday. John?
Nothing.
C?
The DEI met and we recapped Juneteenth committee meeting last week, right, Sharon? And then we also discussed, Sharon had brought up the strategic planning. They hired a consultant, so the DEI commission will be going through that to try to find a focus and a vision for the commission. And also, we are looking for DEI commission members, so if anybody's interested, please apply, because we haven't been able to have quorum to be able to make some decisions. And then the library board met this week, and they went over their strategic plan, just kind of revisiting it to see what they've done this past year. And also, there was an annual update from Mary Beth from the children's section, IT and youth, and community relations. So a lot of great things happening over there. That's all I have.
And Jim?
I have nothing.
Okay, then we'll move then to council member individual items. Jim, that's there in your end.
Just keep enjoying the nice weather.
And C?
I have nothing.
John?
Nothing.
Craig?
Nothing.
Steve?
I'm going to be weird. I know. I actually saw an ad that I thought would be a great idea, and it comes to a lot of the finance stuff. And I signed up for it. It was plowing for pizza from Domino's. Have you seen that? They will give the city 25 grand if you're nominated for plowing. It's nationwide, and they pick people, and I just put us in. And you got to be able to get, and they put, I don't know what the stipulations are. You might have to put a little strip that says Domino's Pizza on your plow trucks. But when the pool is doing all this stuff, and I'm thinking, we're getting tight, there's so many graphics on cars now. I don't see any problem with doing that and offering businesses a chance to participate in advertising on city vehicles. I think it would be a great idea, so it's something to think about. But I put us in for plowing for pizza.
So when will we know?
I don't know.
Entry is selected.
Anybody can do it. You go to plowingforpizza.com.
I kind of like to schedule it.
So that's all. And the only other thing was, I had a couple of people, I don't think it's our thing, I think it's hospice, but the lights go out at 9 o'clock at Independence. People came all the way down from Alex just to see him, and they went out there at about 9:30, and they were not happy with it, because it was all dark. So you might want to leave them on until 10.
Follow up with that.
Yep,
Yeah.
definitely.
People drove all the way down, and you're getting people, but it doesn't take long before people say, well, there's nothing there. They're only open from 5 until 9 or 5 until 8.
Don't they have scheduled hours that people could look on? There's a Facebook page, correct, that they have scheduled hours?
Everybody looks at Facebook, and these people were originally from Marshall and were returning.
Thank you, Steve. Amanda?
I just want to say, over the weekend, we attended a hockey tournament at the Red Baron Arena. My son played 15 teams from out of town, and then plus 2 Marshall teams. It was so well done. Every time we have a tournament, there are people from out of town, lots of metro cities, that are in awe of our arena and how beautiful it is, like taking video, going, look at my father-in-law witnessed. So just well done to the city. Al and his crew are out there, and they live stream, and that is super cool for the grandmas and grandpas who can't be there. So just good job.
Very good. I have 3 things. And Amanda does serve on the Charter Commission. She was appointed before she was elected to the city council. In the Charter Commission, we have about half of the people that will be serving their second terms that expire on December 31st of 2025, and then the other half that will expire, are completing their first term, so they're up for another term. So, and their term will expire later then. So the council that have been around for some time recall that how we've been doing those appointments is that when we need 6 people, then the council comes up with a name, and then that's forwarded to the district court judge. Right now, because of a person who left the community, we have 1 opening, and we have an individual who has come forward, who has served before, and was unsure of when his term had ended, and it has ended. And there has been a gap in time, so he is eligible to serve again. So it would be my recommendation that this individual, who's James Zamesco, residents at 805 Elaine Avenue, that we recommend his name for consideration by the district court judge to be appointed to the Marshall Charter Commission. I don't think there's any other action that's necessary on that. So that was number 1. Secondly, we were talking about cannabis and things like that earlier. And the council is well aware that we have a moratorium in place on the THC low potency products, including the edibles and beverages on the retail sales. However, that moratorium also includes, and Pam, you can help me on this, it also includes distribution, manufacturing, and everything else related. So I was contacted by the owners of Brow Brothers this afternoon, who indicated they were contacted by a party who wants to contract with them to co-pack, basically do the manufacturing and canning of a product that this other company then would distribute, of course, not in Marshall. Well, it could be at Marshall, to our municipal liquor store, but our moratorium does not allow manufacturing. As I've been thinking about this, I think our moratorium was really intended on the retail activity because of basically the lack of any guidelines on enforcement, on testing of things like gummies and things like that. Whereas the manufacturing is controlled by, at least now, the Department of Health, who is responsible for the testing and in compliance with the limitation. So it'd be my recommendation that we consider an amendment to our current moratorium ordinance that would allow manufacturing. Pam?
This council certainly can do that. It would be in the same manner that you pass that emergency ordinance under your charter. So you have, it's a little more expedited than what a regular ordinance is. So that's certainly something that the council could do.
And could this be introduced at our next regular meeting? And I'm thinking because we're in this awkward time where we will meet on the 19th, and then we're not going to do business until the second Tuesday of 2024, January.
So under the charter, you can pass an emergency ordinance in the same meeting, as opposed to generally ordinances need to be introduced and then passed at the next
But this wouldn't
meeting.
meet
But this could be this could be passed at the meeting it's introduced if it's in an emergency fashion like that under your charter.
Would this meet the criteria for emergency, though?
So your charter, we would have to take a look at that. As far as there's not really a whole lot of guidance in the charter as far as what is considered an emergency. So if you give me a moment, I'll pull it up. If you want to move on, didn't you have a third
I can
option?
move on to the third.
Yeah,
third
move up onto the third option. I'll take a look, and we can loop back.
Well, the third option, and forgive me if I vent here a little bit, but as a council is well aware, we disagreed with the results of the 2020 census. And the specific area that we, the city council, disagreed with was the fact that the census occurred on April 1st of 2020. Because of the pandemic, everything was shut down roughly 2 weeks before that, including university housing. So the university housing, with the exception of international students, they were not counted. Everybody knows we did that appeal, fairly long process. We were notified Sharon, I want to say April, that could have been May, that our appeal was approved. But as we all recall, the U.S. Census Bureau, citing data practices restrictions, said they could not release the actual number. We being Stephen, Sharon, I, pushed back as vigorously as we could on that, including conversations with the U.S. Census Bureau that was facilitated by Congressperson Fishbach's staff, and then following up with Senator Klobuchar's staff, including when she was here for a personal visit about our RAISE grant. As a result of that, then we were provided a memo that stated, among other things, it was a fairly long memo, but bottom line, it said, the numbers the city is looking for will be released December 7th, 2023. So imagine our excitement in opening the files, and there's nothing there. There was no updated number there. So that's where we're at. We still have the tattered sign at the entrance to Marshall, that is wrong on our population, and we have not been able to get any response from the U.S. Census Bureau on this, so.
But Bob, you know that when the government says 23, they really meant 24.
So I did have a discussion with the state demographer, Susan Brower. She shares our frustration. And I had that conversation with her last Thursday. And she said her office would attempt to get to the bottom of this so we would know our numbers. Sharon, you shared an article with me today from some other cities like Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where they received their numbers. We weren't mentioned in that article.
No, that was earlier this year, but it is a nationwide stall, I think. I think there are other cities that are potentially still waiting, and I know that the emails we've exchanged with the Census Bureau, they've been pretty blunt and stark about essentially kind of saying, we're going to tell you when we want to tell you. And even in this case, they gave us a date, and they're really not upholding kind of what they set out as our expectation of when we would hear something. So I do think you've been in contact with the senator's office. It really goes beyond Marshall, but obviously important to us to get the numbers. So I'd actually like to contact some of these cities that maybe are still waiting and see if we can get some strength in numbers in terms of partnering with other cities who have the same issue. So
that's the update of where we're at with the population census.
So they have the number, they just don't want to share the number.
Yes.
And the beauty of the Data Practices Act is we're not asking for names, addresses, and
Right,
phone
we're asking
numbers.
for a number.
We want to know how many, tell them we don't care about how many people, we want to know how many ears there are, and then we'll just interpolate that as two per person.
Yeah, unless we got Van Gogh in the.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Vincent, we'll give a 0.5 for Vincent.
So, okay, so that's that. Did I stall enough time for you to?
You did, yes. Thank you for that. So under section 3.09 of the Marshall Charter, under the Marshall Code, excuse me, so section 3.09 of the code itself, it's an emergency ordinance that's in place that preserves public health, peace, morals, safety, or welfare. And that's the criteria. So the findings of the council would be based on that. Since it's an emergency ordinance that's in place, it would be amending that existing ordinance because I would assume that you're not going to want it to completely repeal. And so it would just be an amendment to that. The council could have the discussion and the findings that taking out that piece, doesn't jeopardize your public peace, health, welfare and safety, which is what you base the original ordinance and passing of it on. So we'd have to have that discussion with those findings with respect to that. And then it's discretionary with respect to every ordinance is not discretionary to have an introduction and passing at least 3 days in between. That's mandatory, except for an emergency ordinance, but there's nothing that says that the council can't decide to follow that more broad process so that you could have an introduction of the amendment and then, wait your 3 days, which is generally your next meeting, to actually have the discussion for the approval or not approval of it. And then that would give public time to come in and discuss if they wanted to in public comment.
My view is this doesn't meet the criteria for public health or safety and for an emergency ordinance, that this amendment really should go through the normal process to be introduced, and hopefully if that could be done on the 19th and then consider for adoption if the council so chose at the first meeting of January. I don't believe this really kind of meets that high bar, which should be a high bar for an emergency ordinance.
Yeah, but just to be clear, the amendment is to an existing emergency ordinance, not that you have to follow the process for the emergency ordinance, but it is going to be amending an emergency ordinance that is in place.
Sure.
I'm not an attorney. I concur with the mayor on his interpretation of emergency ordinance. And I just kind of want to go back a little bit on, I think the intent was kind of control, what does this mean? What are we getting into? We may not know every facet of THC. We allowed the municipal liquor store to do it, where there's control, there's protocol in terms of, point of sale and how we're kind of regulating it somewhat already, have experience through the sale of liquor at our municipal liquor store. And I like the approach of kind of thoughtfully considering this again. And I'm kind of interested in knowing just timelines on behalf of this particular business and kind of what they're looking at too. And I don't know the speed. You probably know more. Maybe they kind of told you what their intentions are for timing. But yeah, I like the process. And to me, if we had more time, that would be better. But again, I don't want to prohibit some kind of
Yeah.
business, so.
We can, have further discussion on this. The business did not realize that the moratorium covered manufacturing. They were well aware of the other parts of it. So we control the timeline if the private sector would like to move quickly, but recognize that we have a process that we need to follow and honor that timeline.
And I would encourage that we make that timeline a little shorter because we are tying the brewery's hands by not allowing them to do this. This is being done throughout the state of Minnesota. Well, that's probably the only brewery that is not making THC drinks. And that's a shame that they're losing out on that money.
I would agree.
Okay, so we can follow up with that and maybe have a introduction on the 19th. Okay. That is all I have this evening. We'll move then to staff reports.
Just a lot of staff discussions to finish out the year. And I'll maybe just talk about a few things real briefly. I know it's been a long meeting already. Just boards and commissions in general. Working with Stephen, we actually have a number of openings that'll be upcoming or existing beyond diversity, equity, inclusion. And we'll work on public notice in terms of getting people to apply. It's not too bad, but we have Community Services Advisory, Community Center, and Cable Commission, which, I know we're kind of thinking it's not very active, but if we need to look at kind of future technology and how that relates to city operations and revenue, maybe we need to really engage the commission and look forward. I appreciate that the Convention Visitors Bureau mentioned the Sports Amateur Commission, another one that's been kind of trying to find its way. It's not just DEI that maybe needs to look at goals and how we want to move forward. There's a number of these committees and commissions, so we need to feel good about some of the work we're doing and realize that it's kind of evolves over time because it's either technology, where we're at as a society and things like that. So our committees and commissions have kind of got to change with that as well. I didn't want to comment on budget and levy because it was very well presented. But I do want to just kind of add that a lot of times we look at percentages, and I know that's an easy way to portray it, but you really do have to look at the numbers. And just to kind of equate this further, there was comments about a 3% levy increase. That's a mere $250,000. It just isn't realistic. And I like the fact that what you have, despite the fact that it looks ugly percentage-wise, is that it's a realistic and honest budget. For the most part, it's a balanced budget. We realize workers' comp kind of came through at the end that may not happen. But a budget is a really educated guess on where we think we're going to be in 2024. So I just wanted to kind of comment on percentages and encourage the look at numbers with regard to that. And then finally, I know that maybe you're hearing a little bit about our upcoming public hearing on tax abatement. Staff continue to meet with our financial consultant and discuss this. And again, I'll just kind of refer to Convention Visitors Bureau, tie-in to events, partnering with hotels. And it's a challenge in some ways for some of our events and Red Baron usage. So I'm sure that Amanda, our council member Schroeder, hears quite a bit about hotel availability for some of these events. So you have to look at the other side and not just the abatement. Anytime it's an abatement or TIF, it's pretty much pay as you go. They got to pay it first, and they got to construct it before some incentive goes out. In this particular case, tax increment financing in a standard method is not allowed. It's not a redevelopment. So we have to look at other ways. We've talked about pooled TIF as well. So there's just a lot of discussion and there's a lot of moving parts. I think this has been discussed at council too about the current interest rates, the financing part of it. And we'll kind of see how this goes. We've been talking with the developer. They've also mentioned this as a challenge. And yeah, we're just doing a lot of discussion. And so just encourage council members, if they have kind of questions, to kind of reach out and we can kind of share what we know, even though it may kind of change from day to day. So yeah, lots of discussion and lots of considerations, and it's not always easy, and hopefully we bring forth really good information so the council can make good, informed decisions about this. So that's all I had, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you, Sharon. Jason?
Just two short items. First one is just a reminder to council and the public that our water softener rebates are still out there. We've got money to get rid of through the PCA yet in that grant program. We may be a little lower now. I haven't checked in with Scott Trudson recently, but I think we're in the neighborhood of $40,000 to give away yet. And do-it-yourselfers can replace your water softener. Go buy one as long as it meets the efficiency requirements that we're looking for. You can get a $500 rebate if you put that in, no questions asked. You don't have to have a specific contractor install it any longer. The PCA has loosened their reins on the funds. So that's a good thing. Replace your water softeners. If they're over 15 years old, you're probably due. So give that program a look. And then lastly, I'll just point out that Mayor Burns is chair of the District 8 MnDOT ATP, hosted them here in the City Council chambers last week on Friday. While I wasn't able to be there, I did hear to the grapevine that the space in the area was well received. They liked how beautiful our City Hall is and how functional our space is. So that's all I've got.
Since you mentioned ATP, do you want to talk about TA grants possibilities, or do you want to wait till a future meeting on that? Either way is fine with me.
I'll give a really brief update. We've got 2 TA grant applications in for some bike trail projects. One is and I believe we will be coming forward to council with a full application. We put in letters of intent.
Right.
And one is for a bridge at Justice Park replacement and then trail through Justice Park to connect with the Camden Trail. And then the other one is a replacement of some bike trail along Country Club Drive that's in poor condition. We're hearing preliminarily that there is likely funding available to fund all applicants, and we're looking forward to getting our applications in. I think they're due sometime in January, but Eric Hansen and I think Amy Van Coolen will be working on getting those in, and we'll come forward to council for approval before we apply.
Thank you, Jason. And Pam?
Nothing.
We'll move then to the remaining items on the agenda, which include the administrative reports, the information about the water main crossing project, the project closeout. Do you want to make any comments on that?
I don't really need to. I think we're aware that project happened. I don't remember if we brought award to this council, but MMU's commission handled the payments and the approvals. So just there for your information, because obviously your staff worked on the project and we did receive payment for engineering services.
Right. Our listing of building permits, and included in that is the demolition of the second location where Quick Trip will construct next June, beginning next June, and the listing of upcoming meetings. Is there anything else to come forward at this meeting? If not, is there a motion to adjourn?
Take a second.
Motion by Craig, seconded by Amanda to adjourn. Discussion? If not, we'll move to a vote. We'll close the voting. And the motion does pass. We are adjourned. Thank you.